Wendy's 2 for $6 lets you mix and match some of our best items, like Dave Single with a 10-piece crispy nugs, medium strawberry lemonade with a spicy chicken sandwich, spicy chicken with a Dave Single with a strawberry lemonade, if you're into that. Chicken Sam, crispy nugs, strawberry lemonade, Dave's, nugs, Sam. Whew. Pick what you want at a price you want. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's 2 for $6. For a limited time, price and participation may vary at U.S. Wendy's. On the card only. Single item at regular price.
Lowe's knows how to get your lawn ready for spring. And right now, you can get up to $20 off select Scott's Triple Action Fertilizer. Plus, get a Cobalt 40-volt 15-inch string trimmer or leaf blower. Your choice, $149, only at Lowe's. Get set for spring. Visit us in-store or online today, because Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid 3/9 through 3/22. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
Welcome to the Behind the Bits podcast. Your host, Scott Curtis, wants to learn everything he can about stand-up comedy and take you along for the ride. Scott and his guests talk serious about comedy in every episode. Behind the Bits will uncover knowledge from different perspectives on subjects such as writing and performing stand-up comedy, as well as booking shows and the comedy life. If you're thinking about becoming a stand-up comic, already in the comic game, or a comedy nerd, Behind the Bits is the show for you. Now, let's get Behind the Bits.
Everybody, welcome back to the Behind the Bits podcast. I am still Scott Curtis, and today I've got Gerrit Elzinga with me. How are you doing, Gerrit?
I'm doing well. This is the sound of my voice.
Yes, it sounds exactly like I remember. So this
perfect.
I will mention that we are in a current COVID-19 situation. For people who listen to this after the fact, hopefully there still is a podcast after the fact and the ability to listen to them. But
I mean, even if there's not, I just hope we're still alive.
Yeah, no doubt. It's weird right now, so we're getting through it the best way we can.
Do you know how many cases you have? You're in Indiana, right? Mishawaka? Yeah. Do you know how many cases you have in Indiana?
I think it was like 2,536 verified. Okay. That was as of this morning.
Yeah, we're around there right now too.
And I think we're up to 14 deaths right now.
I think we had, maybe it's like 18, something like that. Yeah. I can't remember. It's so crazy how it just keeps refreshing. Like you can hit refresh and it's like more deaths, more people.
Yeah. And it's starting to hit home. I think it was about a week ago that somebody said within a few days you were going to personally know somebody that has it, and
yep,
and we do. We're not talking about who it is, but we do know somebody in the family that has it. So, and I've got an 81-year-old dad that just a few days ago decided that he should probably stay home. So.
Yeah, just a few days ago. Like that's the problem, is that I feel like not enough people are taking it seriously. Right. And that's the reason that we're seeing exponential growth. And then people keep saying it's because, there's more test kits. So more people are being tested, more people are being positive. But that also means that, people are still not taking it seriously, a month ago or 2 months ago. So I don't know. Whatever. Call me crazy. I don't know anything.
Well, the way I like to explain it is if you don't understand exponential growth, right-wingers, then think about compound interest, because it's the same thing.
Well, they know about that for sure. They're the ones freaking out about the economy.
Yeah.
So there's no economy if there's no people.
That's right.
So,
yeah. We're the ones that have to buy stuff.
Yep.
So I did want to go into how I came across you. So my wife and I decided to check out Dr. Grin's, which is in Grand Rapids.
Good choice.
The top floor of the Bob, when Nathan McIntosh was there, and you were the host. And I was blown away by your hosting ability. I mean, you were like everything a host should be. And I've never really, I guess I'd never really seen that before. And I've been to clubs in Chicago and stuff like that. And it seems like in that case, the host just kind of got thrown in there. And they're doing the best they can, but that's not really what they do. And I could tell that is something you do, and you strive to do it well.
Yeah, it's like once you take so there a lot of clubs across the country, they'll just have a person MC, and it's a rotating thing of hosts. But then what Dr. Grins does is they have the house MC. So I'm employed basically to do that. But if I'm gone, I'll have a replacement. So it's like, it's a job title, and it's one that if you choose to take it very seriously, which I do, I want the shows to go well. My whole job is to make the show go off without a hitch. But I also think that me being myself on stage is the best way to do that, in being just a regular stand-up comedian and then also being the MC. Right. So it's just something that I try to be proud of.
And really what you do, and if you're not a comic, you don't understand this. When you are doing a show, there is always a percentage of the audience who wants to be part of the show. And they want to talk, they want to do their thing and say how it's their birthday or whatever. And you don't want them doing that when the headliner's up there. And what you do so expertly is let them get it out. And it gets all out there. You give them the attention that they want, and then they will be quiet for the rest of the show. And that's what I thought was like an art for you. I mean, it just seemed like it was natural, and yet you shut everybody up for the rest of the show.
Well, I mean, once you lay the groundwork, like I literally tell people, I'm like, my job is to get your talking out of the way. So by the time the next comic goes on, you like that comic more. So I say that, I lay the groundwork, I tell them what I'm doing. So if there are interruptions throughout the show, then you're an asshole. You're the one that's ruining it for everybody. Right. And the crowd can turn on that person. So it's almost, I mean, and that's kind of how I didn't used to do this, but I would blow up on hecklers before. But now I take it and I'm like, I'm going to make you look dumb, so then the rest of the crowd doesn't like you. But even in like a feature or a headline set, it's such a nice tool to have and to be able to utilize. So it's definitely helped me in that field.
Right. Well, and I just have to say, you were just one of those guys that stuck out to me. Stu McAllister was a feature for that show, and he stuck out to me too. So I'm going to reach out to him sometime.
You should. Stu was he was the house MC for 10 years at Dr. Grins. Wow. And then I took it over from him. And my plan was to do it for 5, and I have lost track of how long I've been doing it. Yeah. But with Corona, I've been off for, approaching a month. So, I mean, maybe it'll be 5 years and a month to make up for it. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just a mess right now. But when after I saw you, I made a mental note to see what you're all about. And the funny thing is I friend request you on Facebook because that's what comics do. And you put out, it was very soon after that, you put out the Bullet Biter Sessions album. And it's called Bullet Biter, the MC Sessions. And, I bought that like day of. And
I really appreciate that.
Yeah. And the funny thing is I buy it and I still listen to it on Spotify if it's there because it's easy for me. But
I mean, that's what I'll tell anybody. If you want to listen to it, that's great. But it's genuinely appreciated if people buy it and then they stream it as well, because then you've given me the money, but you've also getting streaming, and then more people see that. So therefore there's more money it's a cent at a time. Yeah. If it's streamed, but it's all appreciated.
Yeah, and I listened to it and I was like, this is an album that should be given to like every new comic. And because guess what, you're going to MC at some point, no matter who you are, you're gonna if you want to get anywhere in the business, you're going to MC sometime. And it's just so perfect. I mean, the first half of the album is showing your prowess at MCing.
Thanks.
And getting through the what is it, the bridal parties and the birthdays and the anniversaries and just people talking because they want to talk. And then you get into the second half, your actual material, which is fantastic. And I listened to that a few times through, and I just started telling people, you got to get this. If you're interested in comedy, this is like a MC 101 for you, and you need to follow it.
Thank you. I mean, I just wanted to do something that I know no one has ever done before. So, I know comics who have pieced shows together from like a feature set where this is my 45-minute album, and it's pieced together from, a couple 20-minute sets. So if anyone doesn't know, there's the MC that hosts the show. There's the feature, the middle act. So they go up for about 25 to 30 minutes roughly. And then the headliner closes the show. They do 45 to an hour. So if you're a feature, you're getting that 25, 30 minutes or whatever, but you're splicing it together. So I took that idea and then I did it. Was like, well, no one's ever done an MC thing, but then also no one's ever admitted that they've MC'd a show. So I'm like, I'm just going to fully lean into it. And, it's literally no one's ever done it before. Yeah. I checked, I Googled, I made sure. So this is like, it's like a stamp on the history of comedy, hopefully.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I was so impressed. And I just, I thought, man, you are like the perfect person to be on this podcast, because that's what it's all about, learning how to be a good comic. And
thank you.
So, with that out of the way, I wanted to kind of dig into who you are. So did you grow up in Grand Rapids area?
I did. Yep. Little outside. There's a small town called Marne, Michigan. That's where I'm from. And I guarantee the whole city voted red. So for me to get out, it's pretty great.
Yeah.
But I do live in Grand Rapids now. I've moved all over. But Grand Rapids is home.
Okay. I have to ask, because I've been watching the clips that you were posting, and you posted a clip from, I think it was 6 years ago, from Sunday Night Funnies, and I have to say, you don't look any different in that clip than you look now. So I have to ask, how old are you?
Right now, I just turned 29.
Okay. And you have been doing comedy for quite a while. How long have you been doing it?
14 years this April.
Okay, so since you're like Gilbert Gottfried's start.
Yeah, Bill Hicks, Dave Chappelle, those are all, like, I would hear about how young these guys were, and I'm like, well, why can't I do it? I mean, Bill Hicks was, I think, 13 at a church camp. I'm like, why can't I start, So I tried to start as young as possible.
Now, were you in that little town when you started?
I was living, so my parents got divorced, and my mom would move all over. So I can't even remember where I was at that point. Yeah. I think I was living out in like Lamont, which is outside of Coopersville.
Okay.
Which is outside of It's all these small little, kind of podunk towns. Yeah. But, So it's the easy thing where people are like, oh, Detroit. Oh, we're in Detroit, Royal Oak. Like it's not, right. It's Detroit proper, I guess, but it's like a smaller suburb type town. So,
yeah.
But yeah.
So you started doing that. And what type of stage did you work on when you were like 14, 15?
So high school talent shows. And so every year I would do the talent show, and then I would go to Dr. Grin's comedy club. So I would go in there with the M's on the hands at 15. And then there were some other open mics that started around maybe 3 years in that I was going to. So Sunday Night Funnies was another one of those early rooms. But yeah,
cool.
Not a lot.
Yeah. How did doing comedy, actual talent show, stand-up comedy in high school, how did that affect your life in high school?
Not much. I mean, I wouldn't get beat up, but I would still get teased by, the jocks and whatever. But it's just that having humor, it's that kind of thing where you're able to focus on other than, getting made fun of. So that was kind of the thing to get me out of those situations.
Right. That is so funny. And I don't like to talk about myself a whole lot on this, but I just right before everything got shut down, I did a storyteller thing that guy in Michigan invited me to, and it was like my first storytelling. And while I was writing that story, it was two stories about the first time I smoked pot, and in seventh grade when I was bullied really bad, and I looked at what happened during that time. And right about the time I decided that, I found out I had rage issues on this bullying stuff, and I didn't take any crap. I went after them, and I went after them to the point where I wanted to hurt them. And I knew I had to get a handle on that. And I used the class clown thing as a way to get people not to pick on me. And I didn't realize that was why I did it until I wrote the story. And it's kind of funny because it sounds like kind of the same thing with you, that, it got you out of some of the stuff. And, I kept doing it all the way through my senior year. And, but then, I didn't do anything comedy wise for, like another 30 years. So, but it's funny how I wonder how many class clowns, I wonder if that was their defense mechanism, and that's how it got them where they were.
I mean, it could be. A lot of class clowns that I know, I would never say I was like, okay, so when you say class clown, would you act out like towards the teacher and everything like that and disrupt class? Or would you
I
just
was more of a disruptor.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So I never had that. Well, let me rephrase that. I had that in elementary school, and it's a lot of stuff that people would say, oh, he's ADD, like ADHD. I think I had that kind of thing, but I didn't have that. It was just like my parents were going through divorce. I was acting out and all that stuff. And then I had a great teacher in fourth grade. So I don't think I've ever said this on a podcast before, but my earlier classes, like, first grade, second grade, third grade, all the way, I had to have like an evaluation of my behavior. So every day the teacher would observe me. So at the end of the day, I'd have on a sticky note what my word was for the day. So the word would be like, it would range from terrible to perfect. So I'd have like, a terrible day where I acted like an asshole, or I had a perfect day where I was a good kid. So that was like 2 years. It's crazy that was what I had to have. But then they transferred that over to my fourth grade year. And my fourth grade teacher was like, I don't know why they have you doing this, because you're a great student. And I was like, yeah, because I like you. You're a good teacher. I like this teacher. I'm fascinated by how she's teaching. So you're keeping my interest. And that's, once again, I hate that idea of like the no child left behind, because I think that every child learns differently, and that's what we need to cultivate as a nation. So, the times that I was acting out is just because I was uninterested in what we were learning and, or how we were learning, I guess.
Yep.
But then when I went into, later grades, I'd have teachers that loved me and teachers that hated me. And I know they had like talks in the break room, and they're like, man, I hate Gerrit. And the other teacher's like, oh, I love Gerrit. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, but then when I got into high school, I would kind of channel that into trying to be funny as like a sniper rather than the disruptor. So I'd wait for the opportunity to say something, say it, people would laugh, and then I'd like hang back in the shadows and wait again. And I feel like that has kind of transferred to how I am now. Right. I don't like really being the center of attention unless I'm able to say something, and then I can hang back.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm a lot like you in the, if I respected my teacher and thought that they were doing a good job and I felt like I was actually learning from them, I left them alone. The ones that I felt like weren't doing what they were supposed to do, I would go on full attack mode and spend a lot of time in detention.
Well, I got in detention one time for calling a kid a pervert because he was trying to touch a girl's butt on the monkey bars. I got in trouble as well. And then, oh boy, our detention was called the opportunity room.
Oh, okay.
And it's like, opportunity to do what, Oh, I hated it. But yeah, it's so weird. And I also liked teachers that the general consensus was that kids hated those teachers. I'm like, well, I love this teacher. What are you talking about? So it's just very strange.
Right. At what point did you say, okay, I want to be a comic and I want this to be part of my life?
I think I was 14. I was listening to a lot of, comedy albums and watching Comedy Central Present specials all the time.
Mm-hmm.
HBO and Showtime, they would used to do this thing where like for a week you would get the channels for free for some reason if you were a cable subscriber.
Mm-hmm.
So I would watch the young comedian specials and the Dangerfield specials and stuff like that. So yeah, about around 13, 14.
Okay. And
it was just something to bury myself into.
Right.
And pay, and like,
which of those comics really stood out to you and you just thought, oh, I want to be like them?
Ironically enough, Bill Hicks and Dane Cook. And I know that those do not go together at all, but I just loved the innovation of Dane Cook because it's marketing that no one had ever done before.
Yep.
And it was like that nostalgia thing that I couldn't even relate to. Like I didn't have a speak and spell as a kid, but for some reason it really spoke to me. It was this goofy voice thing. I use goofy voices in my act. And Bill Hicks is very, I know people will find this crazy, but he's very similar in that he's talking about serious things like war and the news and religion, but making it palatable for people. And, being silly at times.
Mm-hmm.
He took himself very seriously, but also not a lot of the times.
Right.
So there's some of the videos that you can search out on YouTube of, sets from, I don't know, 1989, 1990, like these earlier before the end, basically. If you don't know, Bill Hicks died.
Mm-hmm.
But just like serious but silly. And I feel like the ability to blend those kind of things, I think that's what can, not to use a political term, but, reach across the aisle kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny you talk about Bill Hicks and, I think we both think Stuart Huff is one of the best guys working today. And
he's the best living comic today.
Yeah. And
100%.
And I feel like, I had a conversation on another interview where I said that I feel like, and I think that's the one that comes out tomorrow or on Friday, actually. Yeah. I felt like, just like music, that in most cases, a comedian is not somebody who changes the world, but somebody who tells you what the world is like at any given time. So, and the guy I was talking to was a PhD and has written a couple books, and he said, so, a burner instead of a thermometer. And then we talked about certain comics that actually did move the world forward, like a George Carlin. And I feel like, Stuart Huff and, Bill Hicks are two of those people who in their small way are moving people forward with the way that they put the philosophy into their comedy and make people think, and it sticks with them after they left.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with the idea that too, and when I say making it silly, I don't mean dumbing it down.
No, not at all.
And just sticking to your gut, like, because Stuart's got jokes that you're like, oh God, that's silly, that's so funny, but it's not dumbing it down.
Right.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah. So a good, what was the thing that you said? A good comic is not,
well, and I don't mean that a comic's not good if they are just, they're just reflecting what's going on in the time. It's just like the music in the 60s. It didn't really change anything, but when you go back to the 60s and you listen to that music, shit was going down. And but the same thing with comedy. There's a few that really kind of push the envelope enough that maybe they changed some minds and made people think in a different way. But most comics are just, okay, this is what's going on today. Or their personal comics. This is what's going on in my life and stuff like that. They are basically entertaining. And people like, Hicks and Stu, they just, they're different. And I feel like maybe you kind of delve into that a little bit as well after I've watched a few of your videos.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know I haven't peaked writing wise, but I'm always striving to get there. And I know Stuart, with the last couple of hours that he's had, have been completely different than the first, 20 years of him doing comedy.
Yes.
So the one thing that I did want to say was I love the idea of they're not changing the world, but they're changing someone's perception of it. They're telling you how the world is, but they're changing that person's perception.
Yes.
That's what I love.
Yep. And that's a very good way to put it. And I could talk about Stu all day, but I just love him and think he's one of the best guys out there. I see a little bit of that in yours. And you just said something that I want to make sure everybody understands. You've been doing comedy for 15 years, and you said you're not at the peak of your writing yet. Yeah. And
well, I mean, half the battle is accepting that you're never done until you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you won't there's bits that I'll be going through these videos and I'm like, oh, I forgot about this bit. I should really write that down, because I'll just forget. You just forget that you said something one time.
Yeah. Trust me, it's a lot worse when you're in your 50s.
Oh, jeez. Well, I mean, I can't wait till I get that point, and hopefully I have, a Netflix special.
Yeah, no doubt. I actually carry a little pocket recorder around with me that I talk into, because first of all, I can't get to my phone in time. The thought will leave me, and I can just hit the on button and speak into it, and then I don't forget stuff. That's the only way I can do it now.
Do you have a time that you set aside to kind of listen to the stuff that you said? Do you record your sets as well?
Yeah, I do record my sets now, at least 90% of them, and mostly just audio, but I'll do video once in a while too. And I those things that I speak into the recorder every day, I just take them and write them down. And I've been dabbling with doing everything digital now. And I don't know if I like it as well, but I like the fact that if I can put it on OneNote, I can pull it up on my phone and make changes, and I can get on my computer and make changes and stuff like that. So I kind of like that, and I write for my day job too, and I'm always at the computer, so I can just flip over into my comedy OneNote and put stuff down and make changes and stuff like that. But I also like the fact of writing stuff down longhand, because you remember it better.
I completely agree with that. I'm trying to get better at doing that. I have so much more time now, but at the same time, I'm like, I've put effort into other things that I wouldn't have done before. So it's just a constant trying to get better one of these days.
Yeah. I don't want to dwell on this COVID-19 thing, but ever since we've been quarantined, I have not been able to write. And
yeah, because you're not experiencing life.
Yeah.
All these people are like, I can't wait to write. And I'm like, you're not going to be writing anything. You should be editing everything.
Yeah.
You should be revising everything. Because anything you write now is going to be written by somebody else. Tweet it. Sure, Facebook it, send it out.
Yeah.
If you can string it all together into an actual bit that you can bring to the stage. But I mean, I got friends from high school that are saying funnier things than comics are right now. Yeah. So it's like, it's every thought you have right now because of what's happening, it's been thought and said a million times. Yeah. So you're going to have to experience life again before you can write something that's relevant.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard because I finally feel like I really want to, and I'm like, I just don't have it. And some of it's worry. I got kids kids south, kids east, and my dad and stuff like that. So, some of it's worry and, the uncertainty of it. And it's just hard. It's hard to sit down and write. So I'm channeling my energy into hustling to get people on the podcast so that I can talk to you guys and you can get me going down the right path. And
well, I will say something. I think that if you have those worries and those anxieties, if you tap into that emotion, then you'll be able to focus on all the things that are around it and not just the COVID thing. Yeah. So if you sit aside and you're like, okay, this makes me feel this way. Why does this make me feel this way? What about this? Like, there's so many questions with, W's that you can ask. Why, what, when, where, how. I know how is not a W word, but it's all these things that are around that thing that you can tap into. So
yeah, it's just such a weird time right now, and I never thought I'd see anything like this, because who would have expected this to happen?
Well, I mean, I'm loving the people that in 2016 are like, well, he's the president, so we got to give him a chance. And I'm like, you're going to be eating your words, because this is probably the worst outcome that could have happened in the 20th century.
Yeah.
So 21st century, what are we in?
21st
century. Yeah.
21st. So
as smart as I sound, I am a complete moron. So
no, you're not. All comics are smart.
Well,
most comics are smart.
I know some open micers that make you change your mind.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are out there right now. It's just like, oh man, I can't, I got to get on stage. And it's like, man, I've heard some wacky theory. Like, I understand the Instagram live shows and stuff like that, but some people are like, let's get the club. We'll go to the club and then no audience, and just like, just do like a lot. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, just stay home. How fucking hard is it?
Yeah.
Can I swear on here? I'm sorry.
No, yeah, you can. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anywho.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the podcast interview.
Yes. That's I do it every time I'm on a podcast. Like, it'll start with questions and then it just goes off on a tangent.
Yeah. And those are the ones I like the best. The funny thing is when I interviewed Stu, it was just like, hey, how you doing? And then he'd go a half hour and I wouldn't say anything. He and I will just sit on a bench outside of his hotel and just talk for hours and smoke cigarettes. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. So let's talk about, okay, you get out of high school and you're in your 20s. What was comedy like for you at that point?
Well, I got out at 18. I don't want to give the impression that he stayed in high school for 2 extra years. I couldn't drink, so that was fine. I was getting the M's on the hands or whatever, and then I started filling in as host at the comedy club. I was getting booked by the booking agency. I was traveling to certain places, had a car that was about to fall apart every time I went somewhere, but made it to every single place. And then I started drinking, and then I didn't realize how much or how, deep the hooks went. Until I watched some videos and I'm like, oh boy, I gained a ton of weight. So there's a couple times that I tried quitting and then I would just go back on the wagon. And then, but it was a constant, just getting up as much as possible and, doing sets drunk that I regret, but I don't know.
So, how long have you been sober?
Right now, I've been sober for 2 years and we're approaching 3 months.
Well, congrats on that.
Thank you.
So that's like the hardest, if you're in the comedy scene, that is a very hard thing to keep up.
Yeah, because you get paid in drinks. It's insane. Like already because of Corona, we have no money coming in. And then also there's times where it's like, well, here's some drink tokens. You're like, what the... Okay, I guess I'll get a coffee from this bar where the bartender just told me the coffee here is terrible.
Yeah.
So, okay. It's real weird. But it's just the precedent that's been set. It's just like, oh, all comics are, boozers and they're doing cocaine in the 80s. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I felt when I quit, people like look down on you. Crowds look down on you. And then I feel like now more comics are sober because people are, I feel like there's less of a stigma and taboo around, psychiatry and therapy. So more people are realizing that, the problems they have. So, they'll kind of assess that.
There's a lot of people in my circle that don't drink at all, but they smoke. And I think it's probably a better way to go. And that's just my opinion, but I feel like they're I mean, if they smoke too much, they don't do very well on stage. But yeah,
I agree.
if
I look back on me drinking, I'm like, oh boy, those sets were terrible.
Yeah, and everything I read is that you're not supposed to drink at all before you go up, and I break that. I always have one beer just to settle myself down a little bit, but it takes a lot more than that to put me under because I'm a big guy. So
I'd have so much and then go up. Yeah, and it was like I don't even remember it, but it wasn't like so. Bullet Biter is a compilation of sets ranging from like 2016 to 2019. Mm-hmm. So it's like 3.5 years ish. But there's some on there where I'm just, near blackout. I don't remember them being recorded at all, but you can't tell. It's really weird.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think David Bowie says that he lost like 10 years of his life because of the drugs. He doesn't remember even recording some of the albums.
Yeah, he doesn't remember recording Station to Station, where he was just drinking milk, smoking cigarettes, doing cocaine, and eating red peppers the entire time. So, I mean, whatever.
Yeah, that's nuts. So going back, okay, so you got hooked up with an agency. Tell me a little bit about that. What's the nuts and bolts of that?
Well, with that, it's funny business agencies. So they book a lot of stuff in the Midwest. They have some other states around the area that they book, but you kind of submit to them and then they choose to book you on stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you sign up with an agency. You just submit to them. They pick you to go here, to go there, to go wherever. So it's not like you're signed with them. Okay. It's an interesting concept. It's hard to explain, but it's not like, they send you an itinerary and stuff like that.
And you do not just actual comedy clubs, but you do the one night stands that a bar does, and we've got one here in Mishawaka that does that on Tuesday nights, and I know an agency books that one. And
it's exactly the same. It's just another place where you submit to, and they're like, okay, you'd be good for here, and then they send you off.
Right. How much material do you think you need to have time-wise before you apply to an agency?
I'd say at least 30. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of agencies now don't book MCs. It's usually just feature and headliner. And headliners, they want you to have an hour. Features, 30. Which is funny because clubs are like, they'll have you do 20 as the feature. Mm-hmm. And then one-nighters, because it's usually a 2-man show, they have you do like 30. Mm-hmm. So
okay,
it's real weird. But I would suggest 30. You can float for a little bit of it, but odds are you're not going to have the chops to do it. So you're going to be like, oh, where are you from? And then they're like, here. And you're like, oh, that's where we are. Okay, how about you? Yeah, it's not good.
We've all seen that.
Oh, yeah. I love seeing people crash and burn. It's very fun.
You got to get some sort of a perverse enjoyment out of that because you know how hard it actually is.
Lowe's knows how to get your lawn ready for spring. And right now, you can get up to $20 off select Scott's Triple Action Fertilizer. Plus, get a Cobalt 40-volt 15-inch string trimmer or leaf blower. Your choice, $149, only at Lowe's. Get set for spring. Visit us in-store or online today because Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid 3/9 through 3/22. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
Wendy's 2 for $6 lets you mix and match some of our best items, like Dave Single with a 10-piece crispy nugs, medium strawberry lemonade with a spicy chicken sandwich, spicy chicken with a Dave Single with a strawberry lemonade, strawberry lemonade, if you're into that. Chicken Sam, crispy nugs, strawberry lemonade, Dave's, nugs, Sam. Whew! Pick what you want at a price you want. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's 2 for $6.
For a limited time, price and participation may vary at U.S. Wendy's. On the card only. Single item at regular price.
Is to be a comic. And, and when you get the ones that are kind of posers and got there by mistake and they finally realize it. It's kind of nice to see that once in a while.
Oh yeah, multiple names came to my mind just now when you said that. I think the thing that registers with me the most is like, it's like watching a dude get kicked in the balls where you're like, oh God, that hurts. Cause I know that feeling.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's so relatable, but you also laugh because it's not you. It used to be me because I felt that, but it's not me now.
Yeah.
Aha.
Yep. And you know what? I think everybody feels it. And even if you're doing just a 5-minute open mic set, you feel it. The fact that you come back after that means you've really been bitten by the comedy bug, and
oh yeah,
you still want to do this
many times.
Yeah, no doubt. So you're working the agency, going all around. Did you go multi-states, or was it just pretty much within Michigan?
It was usually I think early on, around 2013, 14, around there. It was like Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio. So it's around that Midwest area. But then also I went down to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina at one point. That might have been 2015. I went to Texas in 2015, Florida in 2015. Let's see. In Minnesota a couple times before that. So it's been, random states here and there. But I mean, with what's going on now, I have no idea what the future holds.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows how many places are going to even be open.
Mm-hmm.
So when you started doing all these different states, did you have like a favorite place that you like to do? Did you have a place that you just thought, nobody knows me and I just did the best act ever, and they really responded to it?
Not offhand.
I bet you can remember the worst one you did.
Yeah, there's been some pretty bad ones. Probably one of the first times I went to Myrtle Beach. Yeah, those were real bad shows. But that was because it was the farthest I'd gone at that point, and I'm going to a comedy club where you're going up 8 times throughout the week, and going to a new place every time is it's this harrowing experience where you haven't been there. You're learning the crowd, you're learning the room and the stage, and it's this very different thing. I mean, the first time I went to Goonies, which is in Rochester, Minnesota, that was pretty fun. But it was because it's that Midwest mentality kind of thing.
Yeah. And
it's also a club that's right next to the Mayo Clinic. Not anymore. It moved across town. But when it was there, it was just the audience was so great because it was everybody trying to escape something. Everyone is just looking for a laugh.
Yeah.
And it just really good crowds. But yeah, I think that was probably one of the best ones. Acme in Minneapolis. I've done that at the open mic and then guest spot here and there. And that one was really fun. But yeah.
As far as what you're doing in Grand Rapids there, I have noticed that the comics in the Michigan area are you guys are like a band of brothers and sisters, and it seems like you tend to lift each other up rather than tear each other down. Am I getting the right vibe there?
Yeah, I think so. People move and, gain some types of success, but we all kind of, we're happy for everybody. I mean, Brad Wenzel is probably the most successful out of everybody. He's been on Conan a couple times. And just one of the sweetest guys in the world. So everybody's happy for him. But yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't really know many other comedy scenes because each scene kind of breaks down into its own little clique. So you'll observe a lot of people turn on each other, that kind of stuff. But I don't really know of that happening here.
Yeah. Yeah. It just seems like a really great scene. And the funny thing is Michigan, I mean, there's comedy going on in so many little towns, and Indiana isn't quite like that. I mean, a lot of them try and don't succeed. A guy in Valparaiso just before COVID hit was doing very well in the Valpo area, Jeff Webb, and I interviewed him about that, and he was doing very well at it. But a lot of places, they'll try it for a month or two and then it just goes away. And in Michigan, it seems like there's a lot of long running small town shows.
Yep, there's Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids, Traverse City. They have Kamikaze Comedy up there. That one's a super fun room.
Yeah, I think there's even a regular one at in Saugatuck. And,
Saugatuck, yep.
Maybe South Haven. There's one.
Yep.
Muskegon.
There's one there.
Yeah, there's
Muskegon. There's some stuff.
Yeah.
And it's insane.
Yeah, it's really neat how they can do that and keep it going. And I wish Indiana would do that too.
Yeah, it's just you got to get enough people behind the scenes that have money. That's usually what it is. It's a business that can sustain that kind of money that's going out to the comics that are coming in, and getting the crowds there. It's all up in the air.
Yeah, most definitely. So when did you feel like you kind of found out who you were as a comic and found your voice?
I actually, because I'm going through all these old videos, I can see where the transition is to where I'm going from like not good to, okay, I can see there's something here, to, all right, he's finding it. And then it's like, yep, I found it. So I think it goes from beginning to 2012, just awful. And then 2012, 2013 to like, he's finding it. And then 2014 to 2017. And then, well, I had it 2014 to 2016 where it's like, okay, he's getting it. And then I drank a lot and then ballooned up. So it's like, okay, you're kind of setting yourself back, but it's like, you're still finding your footing. And then I think in the past 2 or 3 years, it's like, okay, this is what I want to do. So I'm going to keep trying to do this. But that's the thing too, is it's always changing. So it's like, I'll come up with these ideas for, well, I want to do this concept. It's like, well, I need to find out a place where I can try to feel comfortable to do these kind of things, because they're different than what I'd been doing. So, it's all relative.
Yeah. Do you feel like you need to get away and out of your area in order to test material to see if it's really good?
Well, I'm very lucky with the MC position where I can just go up there and be like, hey, I've never told this before. Let's try it. Let's throw it out. And then, it won't work. I'll do it the next show. It will work. And then the next show, the next night, it won't work. And then some person will really like it. That's the nice thing, is like, you get to go up so many times, but to actually have a true sense of how it's going to do on the road is you have to go on the road, or even just bring these new jokes you've been working on that have been working well to literally a different city that's 45 minutes away. You can bring those there. And then let's say it does better there. You're like, well, why didn't it do well where, my own backyard? Right. It's real weird.
Yeah. When do you decide that a joke is, it's dead to you? You think it's funny, but nobody else does, and you can't do it any more different ways. When do you decide that?
I never throw anything away. I kind of just set it aside, or I accidentally forget about it. So I don't think a joke is ever done. I don't think it's ever bad. If you're funny, right, and you thought of something, your job is just to translate how it goes from your brain to their ears, but there has to be funny in it. So that's your job. The idea is from your brain. Their ears are their thoughts, or how they are interpreting everything. It's up to you to make it palatable for them. That's it. That's joke writing 101. Right. So if you're not up to par with that concept yet, just set it aside, come back to it whenever you're feeling comfortable, and then try it again.
Mm-hmm. I think in my short tenure here, I have I've gone back to stuff that I originally wrote and rewrote it, and it became part of my act. So
100%.
I can see that, and it totally sucked when I wrote it the first time, and
of course,
along with my delivery. So it's something that when you come back to it with a new perspective, then you can actually make something that was bad good.
Exactly, I completely agree.
So when you I want to get a little bit into the nuts and bolts of the Bullet Biter album, because you said you've got several years of material here. Comics want to put out albums, and you've got all this material. What does it take to get that on an album and get that done?
Ooh, how do I start? So I think that if you record an album, you run the risk of recording the bit and then it not being done.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll record it, and then like a month later, you're like, oh God, I wish I would have put this on the album. That's just gonna happen. I've completely accepted that. I don't think any joke is ever done, and there's no reason that, like, I don't know. I guess putting limits on yourself where it's just like, oh, I should put that on there because no one's ever gonna hear it on an album or whatever. It's like you're bringing it to a crowd. If you're still working on it, you're bringing it to a crowd that they're gonna think that's different than what's on the album. So you're creating this experience that's new for other people. So there's that. I think if you have enough material and time and it goes well, then you should just record the album. Because it's really just something to sell so you can make money and not die of poverty.
Right.
So, or with Bullet Biter, I just wanted to put a stamp on, history. And I wanted to have people listen to something that they go, wow, that is different and that is funny. There's a ton of material that I was considering putting on it that I didn't end up putting on it because that can go to the next album. And some of those jokes were good and seemed finished, but I've just, changed them or whatever. And it was just because of time allotment that they didn't end up on it. So there was enough material to just have the material be an album, but I wanted to split it up. And there's some jokes that are on there that I'm like, I haven't told since I was recording that specific night in 2018, So that's the nice thing is you can, branch it from year to year. So I think what was the question?
Well, the nuts and bolts of putting it together. I mean, obviously, you got to decide on the material, but how do you get it like mixed and the tracks done and the boring stuff that the people who don't want to put an album out don't want to hear?
I gotcha. So for me, I had recorded shows from 2016 to 2019 in the club in Dr. Grin's. And then I was like, okay, it's ready. I got to start going through all this material. So I went through literally every set. I set aside sets where I said, okay, that could be on it. And then I set aside other sets where I'm like, this is garbage. Do not put this on it. So I put there's two different folders on my computer. So then I would go through every set, and most sets were just like me getting my footing as the host. So I'm like, this is garbage. I want to kill myself. It was probably the most depressed I've ever been in my life. But then the good ones, once you get all that bad out of the way, now you're like, okay, these are the good ones. This is where it's really good. Okay. And then it's going down to what can fit together. You want to create a narrative for the album. So I'm like, I got to put all this here, that there. And then my original idea was actually to do 10-minute segments. So the first 10 minutes of the album would be the Thursday show. The second 10 minutes would be the Friday early show. The third 10 minutes would be the Friday late show, and then so on and so forth. And then Saturday, there's 3 shows for certain seasons. So there's 5:30, 8, and 10:30. That's the Saturday. So that's a 60-minute album right there. And I was like, I could do that. And then maybe I can, have the same bit from one show to another, and then it doesn't go well. And I was like, no. Because that's easy. I think that's like the easier thing. If you're making it like, okay, here's a Thursday, here's a Friday, here's another Friday, here's a 10th,
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I'm just going to make it completely all together, just a seamless experience, because the idea was I want people to know it's multiple shows, but I don't want them to know where the cuts are. So that's where the whole thing took shape, where I'm like, this is going to be very difficult. So I had to change all the audio manually to make it sound like it's one seamless show. And even if you listen now, there's some parts where the bass is higher in my voice than it is in the other ones. And then I think that's just because of how it was recorded. So I tried as best I could to make it sound seamless. But the whole idea is I want people to not know where that all, where the cuts took place. But I used Audacity to edit everything. And then I used Adobe Audition to finalize all the audio, so it makes it sound of higher quality.
So this was all self-done. You did it.
I did it all, baby. It was, I want to say, so it was like 3.5 years to record it. And I'd say another maybe 6 months to edit over the course of those 3.5 years. And then also another 3 months after I was done recording. It was so time consuming. And then I got pneumonia in September of 2019. So that like put me behind a month. And yeah.
Do you know that once you get pneumonia, your lungs are screwed up, and if you get anything else, it's always worse?
Oh, I've heard that, but I don't know if that's true. I feel like I can breathe better than I did before.
Really?
I'm treating it like when I broke my leg in 4th grade, because now that leg is stronger than the other one. So I'm in my mind, I'm using a placebo effect and treating my lungs that way.
It's funny. Last year, no, it was this year. Early this year, I got really sick, and I had pneumonia a couple of years in a row. And the doctor said, you know, if you have pneumonia, everything you get is going to be worse. So I hope you're right, and the doctor was wrong.
I mean, he's probably right. He has a PhD, and I'm a big dummy. And oh, I did want to say this too so when I got pneumonia, I kicked it. Well, I was still coughing, but I was also, I wasn't contagious, but I was still coughing. So I was still doing sets while I'm coughing. Yeah. And I was writing material about having pneumonia, and it was going well. And I'm like, well, maybe I could put this on the album. And then I'm like, no. Just I had to timestamp it where I'm like, you're going from here to here. Otherwise, if you keep recording these sets and you're like, okay, this could be in the album, it's like, and now it's just never going to be done. Because you keep like, okay, well, that was great, I got to put that in. No. Just put a pin in it and say it's done now. So that's what I had to do. Yeah.
The normal album, when a comic puts an album out, it's usually one set that they record, 2 or 3 times, and they take the best bits out and do it that way. I mean, yours is, when you're going through years of material, that just has to be an awesome task. I mean, just hard to get through that.
Oh, I'll show people the Audacity file, and they're like, I don't even know what's happening right now. Yeah. I'm like, well, it's because this, so I'll be like, okay, this is the albino bit. And the reason this has, 14 different tracks going on is because there were, 30 people in the room during this point, and there were 150 people in the room during this point, and there were 12 people in the room during this point. So to make it sound like one seamless show, you have to add those exact, laugh stamps from each part. So let's say I say one line where I go, some of you guys should lighten up, right? So that's the punchline in the bit. So I say that, and then in the one crowd where there's 12 people, they're laughing, but the way that I said it, I think is the best. So therefore that goes in. But then the other one where they are laughing more, it's 150 people. I'm like, I'm putting that in there. And you just have to mix it and match it specifically so it sounds the same. Yeah. I mean, the jokes go well. I'm not like sweetening the laughs, but it's you're taking it from different shows to make it sound seamless.
Right. So you're, I'm going to totally switch subjects now. Thank you for telling me about the album.
Oh, for sure.
Who did the artwork?
That was my buddy Jacob Breckenridge.
Okay.
He lives out in, oh God, where is he now? I think he's in Tucson or Phoenix, one of the two. But yeah, he's, I met him in New York. Really great graphic designer and artist. And I randomly hit him up and I'm like, could you do something with this? I feel like you could. And I love it. I think his art elevated it to making it an iconic album cover. Yeah, I love it.
It's really good, and it punches out at you. I really like it. So switching subjects, you are a very socially conscious person. I know that. And how do you slip that into your act without pissing off all the conservatives?
Well, I used to not care, and I'll go through these ebbs and flows of caring and not caring. So I have a big religion chunk in my act, which is still continually changing. But it started by pissing people off, and then it morphed into not caring, like, fuck you, this is funny, you're dumb. And then it changed into, I have to figure out a way to make them agree with me. So it's that palatable kind of thing. You're like, okay, I'm making it silly, but it's also serious. It's not dumbing down. So it turned into that. And now I'm still trying to do that, but also not care if I hurt their feelings, because I feel like a lot of people, A, want to have their feelings hurt. So they're always looking for something to make them feel better. And B, I don't care about a lot of people's opinions, and I'm also getting older. So all three of those things are going into it.
Right.
I, of course, want to, make content that people can enjoy. But if you're going to get so uptight about a fucking euchre Trump joke, then you're an idiot piece of shit. I'll tell you that joke right now. And then you're Indiana, so this will make sense.
Yeah.
So I'm in a great mood. My phone finally learned to stop capitalizing the word Trump. So that's a joke right there. That's a setup, punchline. Feeling great. That the tag is, I love euchre, but not that much. So with that joke, you've done a left field on a left field where you thought I was talking about the president because you're a conservative. Obviously that's the punchline, but then the tag, you're turning it and you're like, I was talking about that card game. And then I analyze the joke where I say, that's an interesting joke because the beginning would work in any liberal city. And then the end will only work in Michigan and parts of Indiana.
Yeah.
So that's another tag.
Yeah.
And then I say, I tried to write a bipartisan joke, but I'm going alone on this one. So that's the end of the joke. So you put that euchre thing on there to make it palatable for conservatives. But then if you're a conservative or a Republican and you hear that whole thing, and at that point you're like, fuck, this guy hates Trump. It's like, well, then now you're just trying to be offended.
Yeah.
Because I wrote a joke for you and the liberals. I wrote it for everybody. That's why this is a funny joke. But people are still going to be upset. And if you're upset by that, you're to walk out. You're going to hate the rest of what I have to say.
Yeah.
So, I'm done caring about people's opinions.
Yeah.
I care about facts. I don't care about feelings.
Yeah. Well, you're at a place in your career where you can do that. One of the things I tell young comics is, you gotta kind of go through the silly clean period so that you can get an audience on your side and get people to book you before you can start being you sometimes. And it's a hard pill to swallow for some people.
Yeah, you really got to swallow your pride a lot of times. You'll get to a point where a headliner will bring you on the road and then they're like, I want you to work clean. And I'm like, okay. And then they do a bunch of dirty shit. And you're like, I'm not even that dirty. I have to be clean for you're really dirty. Like, what?
Yeah.
I'm not. That's the thing is I'm not dirty, but I can be if I want to be.
Yeah.
I like that thing of being able to be free on stage. So if I want to say jizz, I can say jizz. I don't have to think twice about saying it.
Yeah.
If I want to say balls, I can say balls instead of changing it to loins.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. That's just the thing that you wrestle with. It's like, how much of your pride do you want to swallow? It's a thing where I don't want to do this forever, but to get the bills paid, especially now, you gotta.
Yeah, no doubt. So this is something I ask a lot of the people I interview. When you were starting out, what 3 things do you know now that you wish you knew when you were starting out?
Pacing. That's the number one.
Mm-hmm.
Timing. What's that Steve Martin joke? What's the key to comedy? Timing.
Yeah.
I wish I would have known that, because I'll look at some of these sets and it's just me just going a mile a minute.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, dude, just slow down. Put a pause in your sentences. Because the more you pause, the more they're going to pay attention.
Yeah.
If you just keep railing through and then they laugh and then you talk over the laugh, God. I want to reach through the screen and punch myself. I hate it. I would say don't get drunk for your first album recording.
Yeah.
I was drunk for Perspective. That's my first album. There's some glimmering parts of funny on it, but it's a lot of shit.
Yeah. That's on Spotify as well, folks.
Yeah, that one. See, the mindset for that one was like, we're gonna do a show that is normally an open mic, which was a dumb idea because the only people that are coming out are going to be open micers, so they're not coming because they're not getting time.
Mm-hmm.
So some people showed up. It was maybe 15 people in the room, so it's a comedy album in front of 15 people.
Yeah.
So I'm like, these are all comics and friends of comics that have heard the same stuff over and over again. So I'm just going to do a bunch of new stuff too. And the new stuff probably did better than the old stuff, but it's like, I wouldn't have done this for an album if it was anywhere else. So I guess, I don't know, don't be drunk for the first album recording and then also record it in a full room. So I could have just abandoned it. I wish I would have, but it's out there.
That's great. Well, we've been going for over an hour now, Gerrit.
Yeah.
It's funny. I am amazed at how generous comics are with this interview process. Tom Dreesen was the first guy I interviewed, and for this podcast, and we went for over an hour, and he would have gone longer. And I know comics like to talk about the craft and what it's really like to be a comic, and that's where I found a kind of a niche for this particular podcast, and it's just really nice to know how generous comics are. I mean, a lot of them, we don't really know each other. I've seen you a couple times, and when I reach out, and I get people who either ignore me or say no, but the vast majority say, yeah, let's do this. And, I'm always amazed at the generosity of how comedians are with the whole podcast thing, and willing to talk about their life. I mean, you're out there talking about, how you've had a drinking problem and overcome that, and you spent a lot of years as a shitty comic, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's great.
Of course. I mean, that's the best thing is I feel like you should embrace the honesty of it, because you do have comics like Lenny Bruce and George Carlin and Bill Hicks and Stuart Huff, where it's there's so much heart on the page. There's so much honesty. And I feel like those are my role models, And also, I mean, there's also the, Brian Regans and John Mulaney's of the world, which I think they're incredibly funny as well. And they make me giggle. They make me laugh. But there's still honesty to what they're doing. Yeah. I love that. There's nothing more than that.
Yeah. Well, the last Ray Romano thing that he did on Netflix, I thought that was incredibly good and incredibly honest.
I haven't seen that yet, and I really want to.
Yeah, I've
got some time.
Yeah, no doubt. It was really good. The last thing I wanted to talk about, you were involved in kind of a big part of my life as far as a comic. I did the Dr. Grin's Funniest Person in Grand Rapids. Is that what it was called? And the funny thing, I told you, I just, recently got a little bit more serious about it. And, I worked so hard to put that set together and get the right 8 minutes. And I wasn't doing any guest spots or anything like that. So I went to Kalamazoo and did a mic, and at Harvey's, and then I did the Sunday Night Funnies, at whatever the bowling alley is. And
Spectrum Lanes.
Yeah, I did that and just really worked it out. And, you know, I went up on stage and you recorded it, and, you know, I look at it and I know I forgot a tag in one joke, and I know I broke your rule of the pause in that set.
Oh, I didn't even.
I should have paused more, but I felt like, you know, that's the best 7 minutes and 42 seconds I've ever done. And it really, you know, doing that and preparing for it really made me feel more like a comic than I did before. So, you know, I'm happy for it. I'm glad you recorded it.
Of course.
I make a lot of people watch it.
Oh, you should. It's a great set.
Yeah.
And it was a pleasure meeting you that night. And then I had never seen you before. And then I see you go up and I'm like, oh, he's funny. Oh, this is great. I love when I see somebody that I'd never seen before and they blow me away, where I'm like, oh my God. Because I genuinely, every person I meet, I'm like, you're not going to be funny.
Yeah.
And then when they are, I'm like, oh, this is great. It's such a nice little surprise.
Yeah. I can't tell you how much
funny.
I enjoyed that.
It was great.
Yeah. And the funny thing was I had one person in the audience, my wife, and it was the roads were kind of bad coming up, and you guys are a couple hours away from me, and we decided after we got there that we weren't going to drive home. We were going to get a hotel because the winds were so bad, and we thought we were going to get blown off the road. And we got the hotel. I just didn't sleep at all. I just laid in bed and thought about it, and was hoping that it went over as well as I thought it did, and I loved it, you know, and I was just glad you got a good recording of it, because I can show people, hey, I really am a comic, you know.
For sure. I mean, I love the offering that to people, because I know people don't film themselves. I've been doing it since I started, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a nice, and I'm glad that I started doing it. I did it last year and I did it this year, and I'm glad that I did, because it has really helped me out through Corona. So,
yep.
I will say one thing. I don't rehearse my stuff. Do you there's so many people I talk to where they're like, oh, I'll stand in front of the mirror and I'll just rehearse the thing. I think it's this amount of time or whatever. But I did that when I started, and then I stopped along the way. And I think that the best rehearsal is just doing it on stage. You can have the wording figured out, but you bring it to the stage and you won't. How do I put this? Best advice. I read Sidney Lumet's filmmaking autobiography, basically. Sidney Lumet, one of my favorite directors, directed Network. If you ever have a chance, watch Network.
Yeah.
But he wrote this. What he would do is he would have the cast come in. Everyone's casted. They have the scripts. They would do 2 weeks of rehearsals, because he started doing stage plays, right? Directing stage plays. He has everyone come in, do 2 weeks of rehearsals. Strictly so. Once you know the thing front to back, that's when you can become improvisational, because you know it so well that you feel it. You're a part of it. You can throw this in, you can throw that in, you can do this, reel it back, pull it. You can feel that emotion. And that's the best advice, because if I feel like that's what you're doing is you're rehearsing correctly.
Right.
And I feel like going on stage and telling those jokes, that's rehearsing correctly. You're in the moment. You're feeling that thing. It's once you know it, that you can go off on a tangent and come back.
Yeah. And
that's advice I can give.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did, because I did a show in Goshen, Indiana, and I did that exact set, and I had been working on that, and I had decided before that was going to be my set, and I wasn't going to waver from it, and that's what I had to do. And the only thing I did other than mics and stuff like that, and a couple little shows, was to I drive a lot, and I would say the stuff out loud while I was driving. And that was really all I did. And that was
I've done that.
Yeah. That was the most confident I felt on stage ever. And I just it's just a good moment in my life. I don't ever, I'm 55 years old. I don't plan on being a successful comic, but going through that makes me want to do it more. So that was cool. Yeah.
You should. And that's the thing. It's like, even if you're not a successful comic, I mean, you're funny. That's more than half.
Yeah.
of the guys your age. I mean, no offense. That's,
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. There's, it seems like it's funny. I see people my age get on stage for like an open mic and stuff like that. And all they've got is dick jokes and old dick jokes that everybody's done. So
yeah, I mean, that's one of the shining spots where I was watching your set. I'm like, oh, he's not. I mean this in the nicest way. I'm like, oh, he's not a hacky old guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I genuinely funny. Yeah. So that was very nice to see.
Yeah. I've seen enough hacky old guys.
Oh yeah. My dad, my grandpa.
Yeah. All right, Gerrit. Well, this has been great. I like where everything went today, and I really appreciate you being on the show. This is,
of course,
a learning experience for me, and I think there's some good nuggets for everybody who listens to take away. And I just think of you as one of the nicest people I've met in comedy. You were really nice when I talked to you after the Macintosh show, and really nice when I did the funniest person thing. So I just think you're a nice guy, and I just wish you the best in everything.
I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on. Keep being funny. Keep doing it, please.
Thank you. Well, thanks a lot, Gerrit. This has been the Behind the Bits podcast, and thank you for listening.
Okay, bye.
Okay.
Lowe's knows how to get your lawn ready for spring. And right now, you can get up to $20 off select Scott's Triple Action Fertilizer. Plus, get a Cobalt 40-volt 15-inch string trimmer or leaf blower. Your choice, $149, only at Lowe's. Get set for spring. Visit us in-store or online today, because Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid 3/9 through 3/22. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
Wendy's 2 for $6 lets you mix and match some of our best items, like Dave Single with a 10-piece crispy nugs, medium strawberry lemonade with a spicy chicken sandwich, spicy chicken with a Dave Single with a strawberry lemonade, strawberry lemonade, if you're into that. Chicken Sam, crispy nugs, strawberry lemonade, Dave's, nugs, Sam. Whew. Pick what you want at a price you want. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's 2 for $6.
For a limited time, price and participation may vary at U.S. Wendy's. On the card only. Single item at regular price.